Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo. My name is Bill Park, and I'm honored to be with you to serve as today's worship associate. We are blessed to be here together to share truths, stories, and spirituality in this incredibly beautiful space. A place which has been the site of human gatherings for many thousands of years. We meet in the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee people, and we wish to honor the ancestral gardens of this land and its waterways. Today, many indigenous people continue to call this land home and act as its stewards. May we remember that the responsibility to share and care for this land extends to all people, so this territory may be a healthy home for generations to come. It is a great pleasure to welcome Dr. Jessie Downs, Director of Music for our church, with us into the pulpit today. Dr. Downs will be leading us through readings from Joseph Campbell's The Power of Myth, coupled with reflections on what happens when myth is set to music. We have two announcements from the pulpit today. If you ordered strudel from Tony Keller, pick them up after the service in the office. And what do James Baldwin, Edith Wharton, C.S. Lewis, and Gypsy Rose Lee have in common? Well, I can tell you because Mike told me they're all part of a new season gearing up at the Shaw Festival in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Starting on Wednesday morning, May 10th, Michael will be leading us in an 11-session Zoom course called Shaw Good to Be Back, a preview and review of the 2023 Shaw Festival. Each class will look at a play in the Shaw Festival lineup with background on its author and performance history, as well as Mike's considered opinion on the festival's production of the show. The cost is $70 for the full course or $10 per session. Make your check payable to UUCB, putting ShawFest 2023 in the memo line and including your email address so that we can send you the link for the Zoom meetings. For more information, talk to Mike after the service or call the church office at 885-2136. Mike's right over there. Thank you, Mike. For additional announcements, please see inside your printed order of service. Wonderful opportunities there. I have two pastoral notes to share. Longtime member Nancy Neubauer passed away on April 27th. We miss you, Nancy. Congratulations and blessings to Christina Church. She celebrated her ordination of ministry at the UU Church of Erie, Pennsylvania yesterday. Installation. Thank you. And you would know, so that is absolutely correct, installation, and we ordained her. So the slight correction there, but congratulations to our beloved Christina. And now I invite you to unveil the bonds that bind each to all by taking a moment to greet your neighbor. Say hello to someone you may not even know. Please stand up and spread good cheer.
Today's call to worship comes from The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. He writes, "Mythology is not a lie. Mythology is poetry. It is metaphorical. It has been well said that mythology is the penultimate truth. Penultimate because the ultimate cannot be put into words. It is beyond words, beyond images, beyond that bounding rim of the Buddhist wheel of becoming. Mythology pitches the mind beyond that rim to what can be known but not told." And that, friends, is where we are headed today. So please join me in reciting our call to worship so that we can begin to venture there together. Actually, what is our call to worship? I don't have it in my script.
Sorry, chalice.
Oh, we're not doing a call to worship. We're doing a chalice lighting. Okay, chalice lighting, he's doing that.
Thank you. Let's light the chalice. We gather in loving community, creating a shared vision of compassion and dignity for all to radically transform the world in which we live.
The story for all ages today is by Nobel Prize-winning poet Peter Handke. I heard it once in a film called The Wings of Desire in its original German, and was struck by its melodic rhythm and how it captured something essential about the human experience. It is called Song of Childhood. When the child was a child, it walked with its arms swinging, wanted the brook to be a river, the river to be a torrent, and this puddle to be the sea. When the child was a child, it didn't know it was a child. Everything was soulful, and all souls were one. When the child was a child, it had no opinion about anything, had no habits. It often sat cross-legged, took off running, had a cowlick in its hair, and made no faces when photographed. When the child was a child, it was the time for these questions. Why am I me and why not you? Why am I here and why not there? When did time begin and where does space end? Is life under the sun not just a dream? Is what I see and hear and smell not just an illusion of a world before the world? Given the facts of evil and people, does evil really exist? How can it be that I, who I am, didn't exist before I came to be, and that someday I, who I am, will no longer be who I am? When the child was a child, it choked on spinach, on peas, on rice pudding, and on steamed cauliflower, and eats all of those now, and not just because it has to. When the child was a child, it woke once in a strange bed, and now does so again and again. Many people then seemed beautiful, and now only a few do, by sheer luck. It had visualized a clear image of paradise, and now can at most guess, could not conceive of nothingness, and shudders today at the thought. When the child was a child, it played with enthusiasm, and now has just as much excitement as then, but only when it concerns its work. When the child was a child, it was enough for it to eat an apple, bread, and so it is even now. When the child was a child, berries filled its hand as only berries do, and do even now. Fresh walnuts made its tongue raw and do even now. It had on every mountaintop the longing for a higher mountain yet, and in every city the longing for an even greater city. And that is still so. It reached for cherries and topmost branches of trees with an elation it still has today, has a shyness in front of strangers, and has that even now. It awaited the first snow, and waits that way even now. When the child was a child, it threw a stick like a lance against a tree, and it quivers there still today.
Please join me in singing the children to their classes. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of God surround you everywhere you may go. Our congregation is graced with a phenomenal music ministry and a legacy of musical excellence, starting in 1836, when Noah Sprague contributed $400 for the purchase of an organ. Our music directors, our choir, and our guest musicians have lifted our weary spirits, soothed our troubled souls, and at times got our toes tapping in joy. Besides glorious musical worship, they have given us concerts, cabarets, caroling, and opera. We are so fortunate that all these talented people share their gifts with us. Today, our entire morning offering will be supporting the UUCB Choir Fund. To make your offering, you can drop a check or cash in the offering plate. You can use PayPal by going to our website, or you can send a check to the church through the mail. If yours is a gift to support our music ministry, please write music on the memo line. If yours is a gift to welcome yourself to the church, please write Pledge 2023 on the memo line. Either way, please write UUCB on the important line. Let the creativity of this day and the possibilities of days to come fuel your generosity. Thank you.
When you think of mythology, what comes to mind? Stories about quarreling gods and goddesses, pompous heroes and melodramatic heroines, ridiculous monsters and maybe a little too much adventure? If so, then myths probably seem to you unrealistic, overblown, silly, one might say childish. Well, while we may think ourselves to have outgrown these stories, the truth is that we civilized modern adults are writing our own myths all of the time. If only that hadn't happened when I was a kid, then I wouldn't be the way I am. When that event occurred, that was when I was truly happy. If things were just like they used to be, they'd be better than they are now. Or when this thing finally happens, then I'll finally be able to, and so on. You can fill in the specifics in these phrases with your own mythologies because these are the stories that we tell ourselves all the time. We are always narrativizing our lives, and it makes sense that we do. Stories help us to understand ourselves, the world around us, where we've been and where we are going. But the problem with these modern-day personal myths is that they reflect our egoic versions of reality, and thus often hold us back in life rather than open us up to change and possibility. Mythology proper, however, attempts to speak to us of something greater than our small selves and to connect us through the art of storytelling to a greater story of which we are only a small part. Its over-the-top stories also serve a cathartic function. They allow us a safe space in which we can both lament and rejoice in what it means to be human and work through our understanding of life. While myths may seem childish in a negative way to some, I find them to be childish in the positive sense of reminding us to be in awe of life and encouraging us to live more fully as a result. To again quote Joseph Campbell, myth basically serves 4 functions. The first is the mystical function, realizing what a wonder the universe is and what a wonder you are, and experiencing awe before the mystery. The second is the cosmological dimension, the dimension with which science is concerned, showing you what shape the universe is, but showing it in such a way that the mystery again comes through. The third function is the sociological one, supporting and validating a certain social order. It is the sociological function of myth that has taken over our world, and it is out of date. But there is a 4th function of myth, and this is the one that I think everyone must try to relate to, and that is the pedagogical function of how to live a human lifetime under any circumstances. I chose to have the choir learn the choruses of Henry Purcell's opera Dido and Aeneas for this Music Sunday, partially because of the story's mythological dimension and because I believe that the beautiful music that Purcell wrote brings the myth to life in a particularly effective way. If you came to the pre-show talk on Friday, you heard about the origins of the opera's story. The Aeneid by Roman poet Virgil, how that text was then adapted by librettist named Tate for the composition of Purcell's opera in the 1600s, and how our modern production added a contemporary psychoanalytical level of interpretation. As you may recall, the story centers on the widowed and exiled Dido, Queen of Carthage, who is master of her own domain until the similarly widowed and exiled hero Aeneas arrives on her queendom's shores. Through the meddling of the gods, interpreted as witches in Tate's libretto, the 2 rulers' fates are bound together, only to then be forced violently apart with horrific consequences for Dido. In our staging, we also brought to the fore how Tate's libretto seems to center more around Dido's sister Belinda than either Dido or Aeneas, and how the strange unfolding of the tale is almost like a muddled and troubled recollection of how Belinda unwittingly brought about her sister's demise. By bringing Belinda to the fore of the story, we hoped to make it even more relatable, as the non-royal Belinda and her confused, guilty, and grief-stricken memory can easily serve as a stand-in for experience that any one of us have had in our lives. But as layered and powerful as the story is in and of itself, it is Purcell's music that I feel truly conjures up the spiritual dimensions of the story. While it's easy to get caught up in the specificity of words, the abstractness of music allows us to feel our way through a story. Through musical richness, flat characters or commonplace events are given dimensionality, and the affects that music invites helps us to interpret a text. At the same time, music's aesthetic qualities soften a story's more intense moments so that we can experience grief and heartache in a cathartic manner. Music is also particularly good at bringing out one of the central tenets of myth, that, to again quote Campbell, "Heaven and hell and all the gods are within us." It contrasts dark and light, and yet binds them together in a way that encourages us to look inward to understand their point of connection. For example, at the start of the service, you heard the opera's overture. Although at that point in time the story has no words, the story has, without a doubt, already begun. The lugubrious opening section with its heaving syncopated rhythms foreshadow Dido's despair, while the frenetic energy of the second section suggests Belinda's insecurities. At one point or another, we have probably felt both of these emotions, been a Dido harassed by a Belinda, or a Belinda struggling to bear the weight of a Dido's despair. At the offertory, we similarly heard two related choral numbers, "To the Hills and the Vales," and "Thanks to These Lonesome Vales." Although the text of these two pieces is very similar, both describe the beauty of the grove wherein Dido and Aeneas' love for one another is sealed. "To the Hills and the Vales" paints an optimistic picture of this setting with a major modality and triumphant martial rhythms, while "Thanks to These Lonesome Vales" is much more sensuous, languorous, and perhaps even a bit foreboding. Through music, we understand that this location in the story is a complex meeting of light and darkness, an inner as well as an outer space. And the two pieces which we are about to perform continue this theme. First, you will hear the exuberantly cheery "Fear No Danger to Ensue," which begins as a duet between Belinda and one of Dido's handmaidens. The chorus then joins in, echoing these two ladies' reassurance that all will be well for Dido. Their cajoling encouragements capture human nature at its most ecstatic and well-meaning. However, you will then hear the duet, "But ere we this perform," followed by the chorus, "In Our Deep Vaulted Cell," both sung by witches. The relationship between the witches' duet and chorus and the earlier duet and chorus sung by Dido's courtiers suggests that the witches represent the darker parts of human nature. The twisting and turning lines speak to the potential within us all for dark thoughts and deeds that, as the chorus goes on to elaborate through its haunting echoes, are too dreadful for the open air. Through music, then, we are brought to understand both that the heroes and the villains of the tale are simply projected aspects of the self. In this way, the fantastic becomes more real than we would care to admit. While myths take many forms, their ability to plumb the depths of our souls make the tragic form a common one. Certainly, this is the case in the Greco-Roman myth tradition from which this story stems, as well as in the highly mythological musical discipline of opera. Campbell says that tragedy is concerned with those times in our lives when what we love or what we trust turns on us. This turn from light to darkness also speaks to cycles of life and death that we all come to terms with and allows us to experience and thus better anticipate and process life's difficult emotions. By experiencing those emotions in the safe aesthetic context of musical storytelling, these dramas serve as cathartic rituals of emotional cleansing. Those tears that are brought to our eyes by a powerful vocal interpreter might be said to help us process that which we could not otherwise face. This shifts our perspective from our individual experience to the experience of humanity at large, and perhaps even reminds us that death is a necessary part of life. I think that the opera Dido and Aeneas had such a lasting impact because it is one of the first operatic examples of an effective ritualistic tragedy. In Dido's haunting final lament, she sings, "Remember me, but forget my fate." These words are so haunting because I think it is a quintessentially human cry. In fact, the whole final tableau after Dido and Aeneas' fight and farewell is deeply moving. Dido's last wishes are sung alternately with the great weight of defeat and heart-wrenching, willful cries to the heavens. This is contrasted with the ethereal voice of the choir, who at first comment in a somewhat matter-of-fact, if not unempathetic way, on her very human fate. They sing, "Great minds against themselves conspire," or that is to say, they suggest regretfully that humans often unwittingly bring about their own downfalls. After the lament, however, they echo Dido with their own gentle call to the heavens. "With drooping wings, ye Cupids come, and scatter roses on her tomb." They, like us, seem to be moved by Dido's incredibly human plight. Finally, the string section plays the same tune in a hushed and husky tone that invites us to imagine the deep earth and the stillness to which Dido and we all must someday return. If this story were simply told to us, we would probably say, "That's rather sad, poor Dido." But what Purcell has done by setting it to this moving music is carve her experience upon our hearts. Our chests rise and fall with Dido's sighs, and so we feel what it would be like to cry out in just such a way. Remember times when we wanted to do so, and in sharing this experience with others, we remember for a moment that we are all Dido, and so we are all connected. While thinking on death can be frightening, and this is likely why tragedy is not as popular a dramatic form as comedy, it can also encourage us to seize the days we have, to appreciate moments with loved ones, to enjoy each of life's experiences to the fullest, like a child does, and to remember that we are all part of a great cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth that is a necessary part of being a human. And so myth and the music that more fully animates it becomes not just some fantastic fairy tale, but a medium for telling the truths of existence that we most need to hear.
Alt death
Please rise in body or spirit for the closing hymn, number 295, in your great hymnal, Sing Out Praises for the Journey. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words as printed in your order of service. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love. Our benediction is a reading from The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. Let us be blessed by these words of wisdom by Joseph as well as the Navajo. In working out a mandala for oneself, what one does is draw a circle and then think of the different impulse systems in your life, the different value systems in your life, and then try to compose them and find what the center is. It's kind of discipline for pulling all those scattered aspects of your life together, finding a center and ordering yourself to it. So you're trying to coordinate your circle with the universal circle. The Navajo have that wonderful image of what they call the pollen path. And when you realize what pollen is, it's the life source. And it's a single path, the center. And then they were saying, quote, "Oh, beauty before me, beauty behind me, beauty to the right of me, beauty to the left of me, beauty above me, beauty below me, I'm on the pollen path." So be it. Blessed be, and let the church say, Amen.
Amen. away, fellow sailors, come away. Your anchors be weighed, time and tide will admit no delay. Take a woozy short leave of your nymphs on the shore, and silence their mourning with vows of returning, but never intending to visit them more. No, never intending